tutors, mentors, and the city with your host.com.
The City Tutors presents
Tutors, mentors, and the city
with your host.com.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Kevin.com Brown, and I am the host of Tutors, Mentors, and the City. I just like to jump right in, so please help me welcome our guests for this episode. Give a nice warm welcome to Miss Sherlon McKenzie. Yay! Tell us who you are.
I am Sherlon McKenzie. I am a nurse. I've been a nurse for about 30 years now, and I'm a business owner. And I have a couple of different businesses that I am really trying to keep moving forward in these crazy times. I'm also a mother of 3.
Let's rewind. Let's go back to your origins, okay?
Okay.
Born and raised where?
I was born in Jamaica, West Indies, and I came here as a toddler. I stayed here for a number of years before going back to Jamaica, and then for about a year or so, then I came back to the States, and I've been here ever since. So the majority of my upbringing, I stayed in Brooklyn, and yeah. And right around junior high, I moved out to Long Island, which is where I live currently. So I've been in a few other places. I bumped around a bit in the city, the Bronx and such, and came back home, so to speak.
Okay. So I went to high school in Brooklyn, and I went to Brooklyn Tech, so I have some familiarity with Brooklyn. And it was a different in the 80s. It was a different animal than it is now, I must say. But so you said you came as a toddler. So did you attend school in Jamaica?
I attended school for 1 year when
year.
I was there. I think it was second grade. I was there for the year. And then when I came back here, I remember going to PS 316 for about a year. I think it was 3rd grade, because most of my schooling was in private schools. I went to a Catholic school. I can't recall the name right now, but it was right over there in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. And I returned from Jamaica, spent a year in public school, and then went back to the private school. I think the timing just didn't line up for me to re-register. So yeah, that's what happened.
Okay, so do you have, I don't know how much recollection you might have from those, from that young age, but do you have any comparisons or distinctions between school in Jamaica, public school in America, and private school in America? Can you draw any recollections?
Yes, I definitely can. I would say that school in Jamaica, they were very strict. They were about discipline and respect, and parents were quite okay with them flogging you and getting the ruler and spanking you a couple of times with that. That was all accepted. Here, that would never happen, especially nowadays. Teachers have to put up with, students who are misbehaving as well as the parents. So I think the discipline is different. I think the expectations for excellence and for, pushing you beyond your comfort zone. I felt that while I was out there. Coming here, I think it seemed things were a little bit more lax, especially in the public school. I remember a couple of times running home from school because there were students waiting for me outside. There were no teachers that were out there saying, hey, don't do this, don't do that. I think the Catholic schools that I attended, they were pretty big on discipline and academics as well. They definitely didn't flog you. They weren't allowed to do any of that stuff as far as discipline, but they made sure that they were aligned with the parents and that the education, the work was done, the behavior, there was a certain expectation. You did have disciplinary actions and punishments that were imposed on you if you did not do certain things. So I would have to say the biggest thing is the discipline and just making sure that you were staying on top of the academics, that there was a certain expectation and a push in that direction. And my Jamaican parents, they weren't having it. So that was definitely supported at home as well.
Okay. Okay. So you come to New York, you go to Brooklyn.
Mhm.
Where did you go to high school?
I went to high school out on Long Island. I actually
Okay.
came out here in, I believe it was the 6th grade or so, and I went to a Catholic school in Massapequa. I went to Farmingdale Senior High School. That's where I attended high school.
Okay. And where'd you go after that?
Then I went to College of Mount St. Vincent. I was a nursing major there. I spent a couple of years there and then transferred to Stony Brook. So I ultimately completed my studies at Stony Brook.
So Mount St. Vincent, where is that?
That's in Riverdale.
Riverdale.
That's
Oh, yeah, okay.
the west end of the Bronx, northwest.
I was thinking because Manhattan College is up there.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
and okay.
Yes.
So you go to Stony Brook, you end up back in Long Island,
Yes.
and you your major was nursing.
Yes.
So what did you do after that?
After that, I worked with Mount Sinai Medical Center. I was a floor nurse. I started out on the cardiothoracic unit. When we started there, they had a preceptor type program where they oriented you and precepted you. So you had a buddy, a senior nurse who basically helped you to learn the ropes. They had specialty training for being able to read the monitors and the telemetry units that they were using at the time. So it was really special stuff. It felt like I was really sinking my teeth into nursing and doing all of the exciting things that I had expected to do with my career. I bounced around a little bit during my tenure there to other units like neurology, orthopedics, med surge. They were all very interesting. I think I had the most learning experience in the cardiothoracic area on that unit.
Okay. So how long did you work as a nurse before you decided to pivot into your entrepreneurial endeavors?
Oh, wow. I actually did not start this business until 2010. So I was in nursing for about 18 years before pivoting. And although I'm not, I actually kind of, if you will, left nursing, the bedside, about 4 years after being at Mount Sinai. I moved into other areas like home care, which I loved because it was flexible, gave me a lot of autonomy. At that point, I was starting a family, so it really worked for school and all of that. And I moved up the ranks from being a field nurse to being a case manager, and then being a branch manager, and ultimately an administrator. Subsequently, I moved into a consulting firm. And that consulting firm opened my eyes to a whole nother world of healthcare. And I was so intrigued and excited by that. I decided that I wanted to have my business model after some of the responsibilities that I had while I was there. So they did what's called utilization management, which is essentially looking at what are patients getting services for? Is it justified? And is it valued at the cost of the care? Is it valued for what they're getting? And so I was interested in that. I was also interested in quality management. That's an area where I felt it was almost second nature to me because I'm a stickler for so many things. Education and quality are my top two. So it allowed me to get exposure to those areas and looking at things throughout the city, looking at things in the state. I was on major projects in the state as well. So it exposed me to a lot, and I was able to take that knowledge and transfer it to what I'm doing now.
Okay. And I was interviewing someone who went up the ladder in their corporation, and they might have gotten 7 promotions. And what they said that was interesting to me was every time they got a promotion, they had to apply for the job, right?
Okay.
So I'm thinking, me layman, I didn't grow up I didn't work in the corporate world. I'm thinking that you get a position, you do such a great job, then they come and they tap you and say, hey, we want to promote you. But this person said that they had to, they were working at their job and then
Right.
they filled out submitted their resume and applied for the next position, and then
Wow.
applied for the next position and
Mm.
applied for the next position. And I was like, is that how it works? I didn't know. I thought they just, hey, we want you to
Moved
move.
you up.
So what was your journey like? Did you when you were elevating in the administrative field, did you have
Uh-huh.
to identify the position and apply again and again?
Well, much of my mobility was outside of the organization, so I would be in one place for a few years and then move on outside of the organization. I can think of a couple of instances where I moved up within and I did not have to apply. That was exactly what you described, where someone tapped me and said, hey, I see you have the skill, about this, about that. And I'm like, oh boy, more work, we'd like you to take this on. So yeah, it was more of that. I know that in a lot of the government positions and some of the bigger healthcare firms will require, especially if it's posted, the positions are posted. From an HR standpoint, there's just certain requirements that have processes that they have to go through. So they'll post the job and require that the candidates apply, whether they're internal or external. So it does happen, but that was not my experience.
Well, that's interesting. I'm glad you gave that context as far as the requirements, right? Because
Mhm.
I grew up in as an adult. I was an entrepreneur all my adult
Mhm.
life. I've never really worked for anybody until
Mhm.
I'm working for city tutors.
Right.
But so I don't know. I don't know that there's like as an entrepreneur, people pick me. They call me. They book
Right.
me, right?
Right. Right.
Uh, and that's how you survive. You do great work, and people talk about it, and then they call you to do more great work. So I'm thinking that it's a flawed process when I hear, what, you got to apply every time you get it. What's wrong with that? But if
Yeah.
that might be the legal requirements or whatever, federal mandates or whatever. So
Mhm.
thank you for the context.
Sure.
So you rose up the chain to the point where you were running the entire healthcare system. Okay. Uh,
Mhm.
Congratulations. Very impressive.
Thank you.
What was that moment? What was the moment that you said, I want to do my own thing?
Hmm.
Was there a moment?
There was a moment, and there were several moments. I think there was, over the periods of time towards the latter part of the years that I was in home care, I saw myself doing something different. I wasn't sure what it was. I went to grad school after some time as an administrator. I attended Pace University for the master's program in public administration, health administration. And while there, I actually I started out as a double major. I was going to do law, health law. So that was my interest. And I knew in doing that kind of thing that I would be out on my own, running some business somewhere. I saw myself doing big things. I just wasn't sure exactly what it was. So along the way, some personal stuff got in the way, and I ended up not going through the full course of the law program. I actually ended up taking a promotion, one of those where they tapped you and said, hey, you know, we want you to do this. And I looked at that and I looked at my LSAT books that I was studying for and I said, okay, I could do that later. And I took the dangling carrot and moved into that next position. While I did that, I said, at some point, I need to be doing my own thing. I had established the company while I was working for that other organization, and just sort of worked part-time here and there, looking for clients to do some of what I had been doing already, which had a lot to do with quality management and compliance in healthcare. So developing policies, looking at their processes to see how they can make improvements. If someone, let's say, got a citation from the Department of Health and they needed to respond to that with a quality improvement plan and write a letter and that kind of thing. That's the kind of stuff that I got involved with initially. But once I left that company, I said, okay, you know what? It's time. It's time for me to really start looking for opportunities where I can move out from being, an employee. So I spent probably another year working with another company, more consulting work. That was a big state project. And after that, I was like, all right, this has got to happen. I became really intentional about making sure that I got something, and I did. So I haven't looked back since.
Now, I have a dear friend who has been a nurse for a few years,
Mhm.
and she's very entrepreneurial. Is
Mhm.
that something that is that a thing in the nursing field? Like, do a lot of nurses say, you know what, I'm gonna do this on the side and I'm gonna go get this? Is that a thing to y'all?
I don't think it's a thing. I think that a lot of nurses are hustlers, but to say that they're going to go and establish their own business and be an entrepreneur, I think that takes a special kind of person, whether a nurse or any other area of business specialty. It has to be something that you want to do. It has to be something, the risk that you're willing to take to make that happen, because there are risks and there are times of being uncomfortable. So it's not a thing in nursing per se. I don't think so.
Okay. Obstacles. What kind of obstacles did you face as you were, maneuvering through your journey?
Oh, in as an entrepreneur or just throughout the nursing career?
Let's start with nursing. Let's start with the nursing career.
Okay. Obstacles. I think that one of the obstacles I came across was getting my foot in the door in certain areas, like quality management and education. That was something I was always very interested in. And because I didn't have it in my actual title, it was difficult to sell. So some of the opportunities that I sought required the experience. You had to have been a nurse instructor or a nurse educator or something like that, or something in the quality field in order to get the job that I was looking to get. So that was an obstacle for me, getting the experience that I wanted to get into the areas of specialty that I was interested in. So eventually it happened. And interestingly enough, I've come full circle with the entire, excuse me, education and quality management piece, because that is weaved throughout the work that I do now.
So you mentioned that you ultimately went to grad school.
Yes.
Did you find, while you were a nurse and with an undergraduate degree,
Mm-hmm.
did you run across, in order to get this higher position, I need more of a degree. I need a master's degree. Did you find that as a limitation once you had your bachelor's degree?
I did not. I think I
Okay.
was very fortunate. And I'm not sure if it's the time that I was in, because I know that now that's a big thing, having a master's degree. I was actually already an administrator when I went back to grad school. It was just something I wanted to do. It was that feather in my cap that I wanted to accomplish this thing. I wanted to do something that was a little bit different, not necessarily nursing. So that's why I studied, healthcare administration as opposed to nursing. And I was interested in health law. That was something that excited me. The thought of being able to, create those policies or work with organizations or even government. I said at that time I was interested in helping Obama with his health laws. That was really one of the things that drove me in that direction.
Mm,
So it was more for my own personal goals than for requirements of a job.
okay. So you make the pivot.
Mhm.
You sound very bright. You sound like your parents protected you well, and you still had time to build a family. When does a busy, powerful woman like yourself, what kind of man can infiltrate that force field
Oh my
and
goodness.
steal your heart and build a family with you? How does that happen?
Well, you know what? It was interesting. That started back in my college days, that connection. It has since dissolved, but that connection started back in my college days when I was young and impressionable. And so there was a lot that we endeavored to do together. Obviously, you have to have a partner who's willing to allow you to do certain things, to be on board with supporting you in the movements that you make. I would say about maybe about 10 years into my career, we parted ways. And so I was pretty much left on my own to do what I wanted to do with myself and my career. And I really did bury myself in my work. And my children, of course, were number one. But after my children, it was my work. That was my thing. And so, the idea was that I wanted to create a better life for my children. And it's not that, oh, I grew up in such, terrible times and had a hard life, because I have to say I didn't, but I still wanted more. And I definitely wanted more for them and generations beyond them. So I seek, the opportunities that were out there for me to be able to do that.
3 children. What are their ages now?
26, 24, and 20.
26, 24, and 20. Okay. What are their pronouns?
Okay. He, she, and she. My son is the oldest. The 26-year-old is a boy, my son. My 2 girls, 24 and 20.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So they're grown. They're grown-ups.
Yes, they are grown-ups now.
All
They
right.
have their lives and they're doing their thing.
All right. And mama's doing her thing too.
Yes, exactly.
Nice. So right now, you mentioned at the top of the show, you mentioned several endeavors,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Which one occupies most of your day or most of your week?
The one that occupies most of my week is my work with Platinum Healthcare Solutions. And that is where I do my consulting and training. That has been the focus of the business. Recently, I decided to get into staffing. And so that's something that we're working on and expanding our training scale. We're broadening that to try to incorporate things that are licensed for licensures and mandatory coursework for nurses and allied health professionals. Right now, we do things where, for example, Department of Health recently called and said, hey, we need to have a training for our team on phlebotomy. So phlebotomy is where you're, getting blood and putting IVs and all that stuff. I had done it for them a couple of years ago. So I was really glad to hear that they were interested in doing this again for a new group. Doing training for home health aides. I've worked with home care agencies where they need to establish an aid training program. I worked with them on that and I've actually delivered the training. So I've been doing a lot of education, something that when I look back, I'm like, oh, I had always wanted to get into education, those barriers that we talked about, not having that experience. And I just felt it was something that I could do. And here I am doing it. So it's interesting.
And the company is called Platinum Healthcare.
Platinum Healthcare Solutions, yes.
Platinum Healthcare Solutions, and that is your company.
Yes.
Okay, so like you're the CEO, you're the top dog.
I'm the top dog.
Right,
Yes.
all right. And how big is your company?
It's a small company. I've got a couple of other folks that work with me on a part-time basis. And I do have an arsenal of contract workers that I will call on depending on the project that I'm assigned to. So if I need assistance with, let's say, developing some policies in a particular area, I don't have all the expertise. So I might have to call a specialist, someone who has more knowledge than I do. I know my limitations there, and say, hey, this is your area, could you do this for me? We have our agreement in place and whatever. So they'll be able to execute on that for me, and it would be part of the work that we're doing under Platinum Healthcare Solutions.
So how do we find you?
I am on the internet. I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
We have a nice web page there, and so it's www.phspro.com, and that is our website.
Okay, so are you in New York now?
I am in New York, yes.
You're a New Yorker now?
Mhm.
Okay, so in your journey,
Mhm.
City Tutors, we have a tutoring arm, we have a mentorship arm.
Mhm.
Have you ever needed a tutor in your journey?
I might have needed one, but I didn't have one. Yes, I have in my years, developing Platinum Healthcare Solutions, solicited mentorship. And
Mhm.
so I feel even mentors need mentors. And I have mentored through other organizations as well as now with City Tutors. And I think it's important to have someone that you can look up to, someone that you can call on, someone you can bounce things off of. It's just very helpful.
Who are your mentors?
I do have a mentor through an organization called SCORE that I work with periodically. I'm actually looking for a new mentor because now that I'm going into the staffing realm and trying to expand the training and education through Platinum Healthcare Solutions, I am definitely interested in working with a mentor who has that body of knowledge and can offer a little bit something more than what I'm getting now. I have someone in mind, but I haven't.
You have someone in mind?
I haven't reached out to her yet, so I don't want to say her name.
Okay, no problem at all. So in your journey, what is the best advice that you have received?
The best advice that I have received, I would say it has to do with being persistent and consistent. And I think in developing the business, which I'm really hoping and anticipating through all of the strategic planning that I'm doing to get Platinum to another level, where there's growth. And I have to say that one of my weaknesses has to do with marketing and being consistent with that. So that's something that I've learned over the last couple of years. You don't knock just once or twice. I'm one of those people that will be like, okay, I'll ask you once, I'll ask you twice. If you're not ready or you say no, then I'm moving on. And I realized that you need to have those touches multiple times, sometimes, to a point where you almost feel like you're annoying a person. But at some point, they listen, they give in and give you an opportunity. And that's something that I've had to learn recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in now that you are a mentor yourself, what's the best? Is there any advice you would give your younger self? If you could go back and talk to yourself at an earlier age, what would you tell yourself?
What would I tell myself? I would tell myself it's going to be okay. Stick with it. It's going to be okay.
Now that opens another door now. Did you have moments where you didn't think it was going to be okay?
Yes, I did.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. Because when I had initially set up Platinum Healthcare Solutions, as I mentioned, I was working at another company. And as I had transitioned from one job to the next, I had thought, okay, I could step out on faith and make this thing happen. And it didn't. I spent a lot of time spinning my wheels, floundering around, not really knowing exactly how. but thinking that because I had this idea, this grand idea and this vision, that I could just make it happen. And it's not that simple. So I learned a few things.
Mm.
Yeah, that was definitely a time where I felt like, okay, you know what? I may have to abandon this. Yeah.
You know, you give off such an air of confidence that I wouldn't even have imagined that in your story. Really?
Thank you. Yes, it happens to the best of us, believe me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've had a pretty good career and all that, but I'm the guy, I complain all the time. And now I'm a stand-up comic also. So a lot of times the funniest things that happen in life are the bad things, right? So a lot of times I'm really just searching for material,
Mhm.
but I there's so much I don't know, and I know I don't know.
Right.
And that's funny to me, right?
Mhm.
I'll tell my daughter in a minute, girl, I don't know. What you asking me for advice for? Well, dad, you're my dad. Yeah, okay. So with my daughter, I'll tell her what I'll do,
Mhm.
but I don't tell her what she should do,
Right.
right? I tell her this is what I'll do. You decide what you're gonna do. And when you make your decision, don't come back and blame me, right?
I didn't tell you to do that.
Don't come back and blame me. I did my job. I trained you. I made sure you survived. I did what I was supposed to do. I made sure you got an education. Now
Right,
you
right.
good. You go ahead. You make your choices and you live with them. When you make your choice, you live with it. So
Yep.
I tell her all the time, I don't know. I'm still,
Mhm.
look at my life. I'm still screwing things up, and I'm
Yeah.
proud of it.
It takes a special person to be proud of things that they messed up, right?
Yes, yes. But you learn the most. You learn the most from your mistakes, right?
Yes,
You learn way
indeed.
more from your failures than you do from your successes.
Exactly. You're right.
Yes, yes. Now, you give off a thing, right? You give off a thing like you were well prepared, right? Like you were prepped for life, like you were prepped for your journey, like you were prepped for success. How about that? You give off that.
Mhm.
Where did that come from? That thing that I'm feeling through the phone, where'd you get that from?
I think God planted that in me a long time ago. I give all credit to
But you
my
know what I'm talking about. I'm not saying the word, but because I don't know the word, but you know what I'm talking about? Do you know what I'm trying to get at?
I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to get it. Um, I don't know. I really believe that I'm blessed. And I think that there are a lot of experiences I've had through life where there were disappointments and things that discouraged me that helped me to kind of, pick myself up and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to make this happen in spite of it all. And as you said earlier, you learn the most from your failures. And there's a lot that I have not done well. The thing about it is that there is this kind of thing within me that doesn't allow me to let things sit if they're not well. I try to make it well. Some people say you're a perfectionist. I'll do it over and over and over again until it's right. And it has to be right in my eyes. You think it's okay? That's not good enough. We got to make it better. I think I drove my kids crazy with that when they were growing up. What do you mean a B plus? We need to work on getting that A.
You know,
um,
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, so it's really, I think that was the way I grew up. I had a mother that was very strict, that expected a lot from me. And so it was kind of embedded in me. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to attribute it to except my experiences through my upbringing, um, life in general, and just, my desire to do better, be better, and to make a broad impact.
I didn't ask you this. What did you do for fun?
Oh, for fun. Well, I'll tell you, I made one of my fun things a business during COVID. I love to bake. I love to cook. And I was told many times, I've been told that I'm really good at it. I set up Exquisite Delights, which is baking, and much of it is whole foods and organic baking. A lot of tropical flavors. I incorporated things from, from back home, coconuts, berries, and different fruits and stuff like that through the flavors that I've created. That's something that I enjoy. I enjoy gardening. I have plants, as you can see. I've got stuff going on here. So that's kind of relaxing for me. I love to dance. And I don't feel I'm too old to be out there.
What kind of dance? What kind of dance?
I love all genres of music. I think the only thing there are only a couple of things I'm not crazy about, but I love R&B. I love reggae. I love old school hip hop, and even some of the new stuff is okay. I find my son, dancing to like Amigos, and I'm just like, okay, what are you doing? He's like, come on, Ma, I can get into it.
Am I going to see you on TikTok doing a TikTok dance?
No. You know what? There was a dance that I had seen some people do. It looked like there was a mother, daughter, and a grandmother or something like that. They were doing these dances to old school records. I told my kids I wanted us to do that. So I don't know.
And what did they say? Did they say, come on, Mom, let's do it? Or did
my son was actually really gung-ho about it. He was excited, but the girls not as much.
See, that's how sons are. That's how sons are. That's how I am. I'll be like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Cool,
yeah, so
cool.
I do have things that.
No, go ahead. Finish it though.
I was just going to say, I do have things that allow me to enjoy life a little bit. I like traveling as well. I don't do it as much as I would like to, but that's something that I also enjoy.
Nice. Okay. So I'm trying to unpack. The things about you. So we talked about quite a few things, right? Mm-hmm. Where you were born, going back and forth from Jamaica. You say back home. That's always funny. That's always funny to me. I'm from New York. I'm born and raised in New York. My parents were both from South Carolina.
Okay.
So we don't have a back home, right?
Okay.
My parents, we trace our ancestry to, a plantation somewhere, mm-hmm. right? And I was talking to somebody, I was doing an interview a couple of weeks ago, and it was a Spanish woman whose last name is Brown. My last name is Brown. Mm-hmm. So I made a nothing comment about where's your last name from? Because we have the same last name. And she said, Brown is an Irish name. Now, I'm not a young man, but that's the first time I ever heard that. No one ever told me. I never searched my origin or, history of the name. Right. But a week ago, I found out my last name is an Irish name, right? I don't know how to feel. I'm feeling type of way about that, right? I'm feeling type of way. I'm gonna have to do some more research. But that being said, so what kind of name is McKenzie?
I was told it is Scottish. And I know that through my lineage, there's actually Irish on both sides of my family. My great grandmother was Scottish on my mother's side. I'm not sure on my father's side where that comes from, but I know the McKenzie name is Scottish. That's what I was told. Okay.
And are there any images? How far back can you trace images of your ancestors?
Oh, wow. I haven't done much of that, although I'm very interested. It's intriguing to me. The most senior person that I know in my family was my great grandmother. And I was fortunate enough to have her in my life, my grandmother, my mother, myself, my children. We had 5 generations at one time. We have photos that we took together.
Wow.
So I treasure that. Don't know. I'm sure that there are photos of her parents. I believe I've seen photos of my great grandmother's parents, but I'm not aware of any other images beyond that.
Okay. So as far as your heritage goes, it stops with Jamaica. It doesn't, you don't say, I'm gonna go to Jamaica, and then you know what, Jamaican family, let's go to Ireland. Let's go to Scotland. You don't go that far.
No, actually, Cuba, my grandfather's from Cuba.
Okay.
So I know of those two countries. And I was told that my grandmother, my grandmother on my dad's side, my fraternal grandmother, her family was from some part of Africa, but I'm not sure where.
So you can trace back to Cuba. If you asked, somebody, if you took the time to ask, you could find this is where grandpa went to elementary school or whatever.
Yes, he talked about that. Yep.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. All right. So is there anything that I left out?
You covered a lot, and
I covered a lot.
No, I don't think so.
We covered a lot. But sometimes I'll skip things. I was talking to somebody a week ago before. I don't pay attention to the calendar. Like, I never know what day it is, right? So I never forget when my daughter's birthdays are. I just don't remember what day this is, right? So if this is her birthday, I don't know, but I didn't forget her birthday. So that's my that's my loophole when my sister called me at the end of the day and say, "Did you say happy birthday to your daughter?" And I'll be like, "Wait, today is, I didn't know." So there's just things that I don't know, just being a goofy guy, just an incompetent guy, right? But I'm saying all that to say, so I was interviewing somebody, and they had mentioned at the very beginning of the interview how they like to run, and I didn't catch it.
Okay.
And the marathon was just the other day. So they were preparing for the marathon. So in their life, they are avid runners. They're big time runners. They're getting ready to do their 9th marathon. So when I hit my final question of, is there anything I left out, that came up, right?
Okay.
And then we went into another 15 minutes about running and how. So I always listen. I always try to listen to the people like yourself who are so kind enough to join me and be interviewed by me. I always listen, but every once in a while I miss things. So I ask that question as far as things that are important to you, things we may have overlooked, things you may have just triggered, that may have just triggered in your mind that, oh, you know what I want to mention? Do we have any of those things that we just didn't cover?
No, I think the only other thing that we touched on it a little bit was Exquisite Delights, which is my baking. That's something I'm very passionate about.
Say it again. What is it called?
Exquisite Delights.
Exquisite Delights. Now, is that a thing? Like, do you have a website? Like, if I wanted to order, how do we find that?
Oh, there's a website, Exquisite Delights. It's XQUISITEDLITES.
Now, see, it starts with an X. It starts with an X. We would have never found it. But that is cool. That is cool. I love your entrepreneurial spirit. I love, you obviously made moves, and you just to even have a backdrop like that, and it's real, right? is impressive right at the start. No, but Sherlon, I know you were skeptical. I know you were a little skeptical about, even participating in the interview. I hope it didn't, I hope you appreciated that it was a conversation about you, and there were no gotcha moments or anything like that. Yeah. And you are a very fascinating human being, and I know your time is valuable, and I really appreciate you joining me for this episode. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking me to join, and you made this whole process very easy. Yes, I was a bit nervous. I've never been interviewed before, and I just kept thinking, what am I going to say? What am I going to talk about? Oh my God, this is going to be, forever because it's a video. Let me not mess it up.
Listen, the field that you're in, my parents, I was blessed enough to have a life with elderly parents. So I lost them both recently, right? And I remember taking care of them. And I remember when they were both hospitalized, my mother last year, my father 2 years ago. But I had wished that some of the nurses that had taken care of them, especially the night nurses, I wish they had more training, right? I had wished, because I was there, I was visiting my parents every day, but I'm looking at the rooms that are surrounding my parents, and both of them were in their late 80s when they passed.
Wow.
But the rooms that were surrounding my parents were filled with elderly people who had no one to advocate for them.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart.
Yes.
Because I'm watching how the nurses are treating them or ignoring them or disregarding them or diminishing them or marginalizing them. And they weren't my parents. So, I can't step in but so much.
Right.
But I wish some of those young ladies, it was particularly ladies, but it wasn't all ladies. But I wish, let's just say, some of those nurses had the training of a company like yours, right? Yeah. Who could just let them know my mother was in a nursing home for a few months before she passed, and I made sure I got her out. She had gotten in a car accident.
Wow.
And she was 80, let's put her on 84, 85. So she's in a nursing home, and on the floor she was in, there were, or the section she was in, there were 90 women. And she, at 84, 85, was the youngest woman in the ward.
Wow.
She was the baby, right? Wow. So we have all of these elderly women who had outlived their entire family, their entire, their entire community. They just outlived them. So they had no visitors. Nobody was bringing them flowers or giving them a hug or, Wow. And again, I'm there every day, trying to make sure my mom's, just has the, the love that she gave to me.
Right.
But what you do, what you participate in, I admire people in your field who are on the front lines. I really do. I think the world is upside down where we only celebrate if you can shoot a basketball and run fast and things like that. But that's not what moves our society forward.
Right.
It's real people like yourself, and then recognizing the knowledge you have and try to give it to these youngins, right? Because like I said, every time I watched them ignore the grandma 2 doors down,
right,
all I was thinking was, well, how are you going to treat my moms when I leave?
When you're not
right?
there. Yeah. Yeah.
And no one, and they're not thinking that.
Right.
They're trying to justify, oh no, that's Miss So-and-so. She's always like that. Well,
Yeah.
Miss So-and-so is screaming right now. Go in that room and take care of Miss So-and-so. I don't care how you trying to, you know what I mean?
Yes.
That's such a delicate time.
It is. It is.
So-
And my goal with the education and training is to impart that humanity, the excellence, the quality, in the learning that they are experiencing through our services. So definitely.
That word you said right there, humanity. That's the word I was searching for, right? That word you said right there, humanity. And so I admire what you do, and I, keep doing it. And as a bonus class or extra credit for all the people that you train when you're teaching them phlebotomy, make sure you throw in some humanity, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.